Hello everyone, and welcome back to my channel. I'd love it if you could leave a comment letting me know where you're listening from around the world. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe if you're enjoying this video. Story 1. It was supposed to be 3 days of peace. No screens, no people, just me and the trees in Olympic National Forest. I needed the silence, the kind only thick woods can give you. I've been running on fumes for months. Work, deadlines, constant noise. This hike was my escape plan. Solitude, firewood, and a stream nearby. Heaven, right? The first day was uneventful. Just the sound of my boots crunching over pine needles, birds overhead, and the occasional breeze shaking the mossy branches like the forest was exhaling. By the second day, I realized I hadn't seen a single person, not one hiker, not even a ranger. But I told myself that was a good thing. It meant I'd picked the right trail. By dusk, I found a spot beside a narrow stream to set up camp. The water whispered over stones like it was telling secrets. The trees hung heavy around the clearing, branches drooping low, moss swinging like lazy chandeliers. I pitched my tent, gathered wood, and got my little stove going. That's when I heard it. A single crunch, dry leaves behind me. I paused, turned around slowly. Nothing, just trees, standing quiet like they always do. I stood there for a few seconds, waiting to hear it again. Nothing came. I went back to stirring my dinner, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. It was the kind of feeling you get when you're being watched. Not the paranoid kind, either. The real one. Like something is just out of sight, holding its breath, waiting for you to look the wrong way. The forest had gone too quiet. I zipped myself into the tent by 10. The night was cold, and I pulled my sleeping bag up to my neck. The stream gurgled softly, the only sound in that thick silence. Then came the whisper. Arslan, my name, not yelled, not said, whispered, soft, slow, like someone trying to coax a stray cat. I went rigid. My blood turned cold. You think you'll react with logic when you're scared. You don't. You freeze. Your heart slams against your ribs, and all you can think is, did I just hear that? But I had. Clear as day. Arslan. It came again. Right outside the tent. No more than a few feet away. I didn't move. Didn't breathe. I was trying to convince myself it was wind or imagination or a dream. Then came the footsteps. Slow, deliberate steps in the leaves. Crunch, 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 circling the tent. I counted them. They made a full loop. Then another. Then another. I stayed perfectly still, clutching the flashlight in my hand, but too afraid to turn it on. The whispering had stopped. The walking hadn't. After what felt like forever, it faded. I didn't sleep a second that night. I just waited for the sun. When the first light came, I burst out of the tent like a man escaping a coffin. The air was damp, heavy. I looked around the clearing, heart still thudding. Then I saw them. Footprints. Bare. Human. They went around my tent, over and over, in a wide circle. No boots, no tread, just pale, wrinkled prints in the dirt. No pack, no clothes dropped, just feet. My stomach turned. I didn't eat. I didn't bother packing the stove or folding the tent. I threw everything into my bag, tore the tent poles out, and started hiking back. I didn't stop. My legs burned, but I didn't care. I had to get out of those woods before the sun dipped again. I got back to my car by late evening, sweaty, and on the edge of panic. I drove home in silence, every headlight in the trees looking like a shadow that might say my name again. Weeks passed. I told myself I was okay, that I imagined it, that I was overtired, overworked, overstressed. I buried it until last week. I was lying in bed, just drifting off, when I heard it again, right outside my bedroom window. Arslan. Soft. Slow. My blood turned to ice. I live on the second floor. I haven't gone near the windows since. I nailed it shut. I sleep with the lights on. I keep a knife beside my bed like some paranoid lunatic, because whatever was in that forest, it followed me, and it still knows my name. Story 2. It was supposed to be just a weekend thing. Me and my older brother, Danny, reconnecting like we used to. He was back from Colorado for a few weeks, and we decided to hit the Uinta Mountains in Utah. We picked a barely used trail called Silent Ridge, a name that probably should have set off some internal alarms, but we were tired of crowded parks and noisy campsites. We wanted silence, solitude, a couple nights with just the trees and stars overhead. Silent Ridge gave us that. For the first day, the trail was rough but beautiful. Pines leaned in over narrow switchbacks, and wildflowers bloomed in defiant little pockets along the rocky slopes. You could walk for an hour and not hear a single human-made sound. No voices, no engines, no tech. Just the wind in the branches and the distant cry of birds. It felt like we'd stepped into a different century. Around mid-afternoon on that first day, we came across a trail marker. Nothing fancy, just a slim wooden post stuck into the earth with a number 39 carved into it. The carving was rough, like someone had used a dull knife, or maybe even a rock to etch it in. A little crude, but hey, not every ranger station has a budget for pretty signs. Danny joked that it looked like a grave marker. I laughed, but not too hard. We kept walking. A few more hours. Sun started to dip low. We planned to camp by a creek we'd seen on the map. But then, we saw the marker again. Trail marker 39. Same crude carving. Same angle it leaned. Same weird dark stain on the top corner of the post, like old dried sap, or something else. I remember thinking, that's weird. Maybe someone screwed up and marked the same number twice. Danny pulled out the GPS and frowned. This can't be right. We've been going west. The last marker should have been behind us. We double-checked everything. Compass, map, even landmarks we'd passed. Nothing made sense. We'd gone straight. No loops. No turns. But we were back where we'd been hours ago. We kept walking, just in case. Maybe we missed a fork in the trail. Maybe the map was old. An hour later, there was again. Marker 39. Only now it looked different. Older. The wood was grayer, like it had been left in the rain for years. The numbers had started to split down the grain, curling like old bark. Danny touched it and yanked his hand back. "It's freezing," he said. The sun had set by then. It wasn't smart to hike at night, especially off the grid like we were. So we set up camp just off the trail, near a small clearing. Both of us quiet, trying not to admit we were creeped out. Around 3 a.m., I woke up suddenly. No sound woke me, just that awful, panicked sense that something was wrong. My tent zipper made the softest sound as I peeked out. There was a figure standing between our tents. Not moving, not swaying, just standing, arms at its sides, face hidden in shadow. It was tall, wrong tall, like a stretched out person wearing skin too tight for its frame. I didn't breathe. I didn't even blink. The figure didn't turn toward me. It just stood there for what felt like an hour, like it was listening for something, like it was thinking. Then it walked off, slowly, into the trees. No flashlight, no sound of twigs snapping, just gone. I didn't sleep after that. In the morning, I didn't have to tell Danny. He looked like hell, pale, eyes red. "Did you see it?" he asked. I nodded. We started packing. Then Danny said, dude, behind our tents were two new trail markers. Identical, fresh cut, smooth, and planted deep in the ground. No way they were there last night. Both read 39. We left everything, tents, cookware, sleeping bags. Ran until we hit the tree line and kept going until we saw a ranger cabin. We didn't say much to the ranger, except that we'd gotten lost and needed help back to our car. He gave us a weird look, but didn't ask questions. A few days later, I looked up Silent Ridge again. I couldn't find it on any of the updated hiking maps. So I called the ranger station. A woman picked up. I asked about trail marker 39. There was a pause. Then she said, "Sir, we don't number our markers past 32 on that range. And that trail, Silent Ridge, it was shut down in the late 90s after 3 hikers disappeared. People stopped going up there after, well, strange things kept happening." I hung up without saying anything. What was there to say? I don't hike anymore. And sometimes, late at night, when the wind's just right, I swear I can hear footsteps outside my window. Slow ones, like someone circling, watching, waiting. And in the morning, I always check my yard. I've never seen a marker. Not yet. But I know if I ever find one that says 39 again, I won't wait around to see what comes next. Story 3. Last summer, I did something I'd always wanted to do. I took a solo hike along part of the Appalachian Trail in Georgia. I've been through a rough year, breakup, lost a job, a few things I don't like to talk about, and I needed time away from the static and the screens. I wanted nature, silence, space to breathe. The first 3 days were uneventful. Forest stretched for miles in every direction. I met a few fellow hikers, waved, nodded, and kept to myself. At night, I'd pitch my tent, make some tea, read a few pages from a battered paperback, and fall asleep to the sound of crickets and wind whispering through the trees. On the 4th day, I veered off the main trail. There was a spot I'd read about online, an old cliffside overlook with a hell of a view. Some said native tribes had once performed rituals there, but there was little detail, just scraps of lore buried in comment threads and obscure blogs. I wasn't looking for ghosts or history, just a quiet place with a view. The path was narrow, overgrown, and clearly not used often. That only made it more appealing. I reached the cliff by late afternoon. It jutted out over a drop that must have been 100 feet. Below was a thick green sea of trees. The place felt untouched, sacred, in that quiet, humming kind of way. I took a deep breath and felt peace. The first real peace I'd felt in months. I pitched my tent at the base of the ridge, where the cliff curved gently downward into a pocket of trees and rocks. I boiled water, made some noodles, and watched the sun dip low, painting the forest gold and red. I almost didn't notice how quiet it had gotten. No birds, no insects, just stillness. Night came fast. I was reading when I first heard it. Laughter. At first, I thought it was wind twisting through the trees in a strange way. But then it came again, clearer, high-pitched, giddy, like a child trying to hold back a giggle. It was coming from the top of the ridge. I stood up and turned off my headlamp. The moon was bright enough to see silhouettes, and I scanned the ridge for any movement. Maybe someone else had hiked up here. A kid, a couple messing around, but there was no one. Just jagged rocks and swaying trees. Then something clattered down the cliff. A rock, not a rolling one, a thrown one. It smacked the dirt a few feet from my tent. I flicked on my flashlight and pointed it upward. Nothing, just shadows and stone. Another rock fell, then another. "Hey," I shouted. "Knock it off." No reply, but the laughter returned. Louder, still high-pitched, still wrong. Then I realized something. It wasn't coming from above anymore. It was beneath me. I turned. Behind my tent, half hidden by a tangle of roots and moss-covered stones, was a small opening. A crack in the earth I hadn't noticed before. Maybe 2 feet wide. Too small to crawl into, but just big enough to swallow sound. And from inside it came that same laughter. Not echoing, pouring out like steam. Like whatever was making it was just inches below the surface, waiting, listening. I stepped back, heart hammering. My flashlight beam caught something in the darkness of the hole. Eyes. Not two. Not human. A cluster of them. Glassy. Wet. Wide open and watching me without blinking. I froze. I don't know how long I stood there. Could have been seconds. Could have been a full minute. The laughter kept going, rising and falling like a sick kind of breathing. Then it stopped. The eyes blinked once, slowly, and vanished into the black. I backed away and threw as much wood as I could find on the fire. I sat up all night, staring at that crack in the earth, clutching my hiking knife like it would actually do something. Nothing else happened that night, but I never slept, not even for a second. At first light, I packed everything. I didn't eat, didn't clean up, just grabbed my gear and left. I didn't even take the trail back. I bushwhacked through branches and thorns until I reconnected with the main path, heart racing the whole time. Back home, I tried to forget it. I told myself it was exhaustion, paranoia, maybe even a wild animal with some weird disease. But that didn't explain the laughter, or the eyes. Then I stumbled on a news article, buried deep in a local site. A woman hiker had gone missing just 2 weeks before my trip. Last known location, somewhere near that same ridge. According to the report, her last phone call was to her husband. He said she was whispering, panicked, trying to describe something. The call cut out, but the last thing she said before the line went dead was, "It's laughing under the rocks." They never found her. And now, sometimes, late at night, when everything's quiet, I hear it again in my head. That high-pitched laughter. Not quite human, not quite real, but always close, always beneath.